that we get this up on Learn It Live, just in case it's not going live, because it's hard to tell. I'm not 100% sure that I see a bunch of apps on the side. Anyway, point being, thank you, Wil, so much for agreeing to do this class with me. I'm excited.
Thank you so for inviting me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we haven't ever taught together, so you'll have to bear with us. We haven't, learned each other's pauses and cadences, but that's okay. That's part of the exciting thing about teaching and collaborating with people who you just enjoy being around.
And the synergy that comes out of it sometimes is much greater than the sum of the parts, which is always amazing.
That it goes to one of the mantras that I have quite often, which is imperfect action is absolutely 100% of the time your best friend. Just do it anyway. Don't worry about how it looks. Don't worry about if it's fantastic or polished. We can always polish it later. It's all good.
Absolutely.
As long as you're providing, value, everything else works itself out.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to make sure that you have sharing ability so that you can share with us your I'm going to make you a co-host first and foremost, and then make sure that you are able to share. In fact, go ahead and see if you have sharing ability, if you would like to share your screen.
Yep, I got a nice button right there. Ta-da!
Yay, fantastic. Wonderful. Look at how fancy.
And now I'm just gonna figure out how to get into play mode so I can flip through the slides without the editing stuff to come up.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that when I very first started on Learn It Live platform, they did not have a way to play your slideshow. And I was all into the, things coming in and all the little animations is what they're called in PowerPoint. And I couldn't do that. I had to print out my static thing, but they've upgraded so much and grown as a company so much. It's so exciting to watch them grow. So before, while you're figuring out the technology there, before you start it, why don't we take just a moment to introduce ourselves?
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Right. I know. Who the heck are these people and why do we want to listen to them tell us about embracing our leadership role? I'm Jamie Allen Bishop. I have 17 years as an entrepreneur. I run 4 different companies in addition to the collaborative efforts that I make. And it's all part of how they all, by the way, they are 4 different things because they do 4 different individual experiences for the client themselves, but they all flow within each other. So don't think that I'm like spreading myself in 4 different directions. It's not the case. They all combine into a beautiful symbiotic relationship with each other. And I work specifically with entrepreneurial clients who are new to being an entrepreneur, or maybe even haven't even started being an entrepreneur yet. And I help them go from that state of, I don't know if I really want to take this on, to, holy cow, I should have been doing this my whole life. So that's my specialty. That's what I enjoy doing. That's what I enjoy helping people basically embrace the magic that is within each one of us in our own individual way and bring it out into the world because the world needs it. So that's a little bit about who I am. And Wil will tell you all about himself. But before he tells you about himself, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Wil. Wil is this fantastic powerhouse who is just such a loving and heart-centered person. He shows up with listening ears, which is huge in the world today. And he makes absolutely the wisest comments in the whole wide world. So if Wil is speaking, you want to be listening to what he has to say. So Wil, thank you so much again for being here and sharing this moment.
Wow, Jamie, I'm excited to hear from this guy. Who is that again? No, I'm thankful, Jamie. That was so beautiful. I just gotta tell you guys, Jamie's amazing. I have learned so much from her over the last 3 years being associated with her networking group. Um, and it's kind of part of my journey here. To give you a little backstory, I have been in leadership roles since university, in churches, in Boy Scouts, in Cub Scouts. I've been a men's pastor and as well as a assistant pastor over congregation. And on top of that, my friends tell me that I read like I'm starving. Um, and so I like to share those things because I have found a lot of wisdom come out of those mentors that are, dusty and floppy, and you can throw them in your bag or put them in an audio form on your phone or in the ebook form. Um, and some of my best friends live in those pages. And some of the biggest lessons I've learned came out of those pages. And I love to share that with people because in the last 4 years, 5 years on this journey, myself, I have found that it has helped other people. And it is amazing for me to see someone else have that journey, their journey. You own your journey, whatever that
Yes.
is. You may have Jamie come along and help you, or Cheryl come along and help you, or someone else in your life that gives you a little nudge in the right direction. It's different for everybody. But I love sharing things because I've found that one, it helps me, and two, I love to see other people grow.
Me too. Me
Thanks,
too.
Jamie.
Thank you. Um, just as a little piece of, I don't know, wisdom, I'll share a piece of wisdom. First of all, a round of applause for talking a little bit about yourself, because I know that's never easy when you're first starting and you're starting to tell people about who you are and why they should listen to you. You're like, wait, what do I say here? So good job. Awesome. 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 The other thing that I wanted to share was this is clapping or audience applause in sign language. So if you're ever on a Zoom call and you see people going like this, it's not because they're trying to attract attention, it is because they are applauding you. So just so you know. All right.
And that feedback is really important for the audience as well as the speaker, because it shows your own excitement about the subject matter or the point that person's sharing.
Love it. Love it. So true. So true. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to speaker view, which means that Wil will be front and center. And sweet. And then you are going to go ahead and share your slides with us and teach us something cool about embracing your leadership role.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much. Again, I'm really excited to be here to do this. I love teaching other people because I know that it makes a big difference in their own life. Not that I want credit for anything, because the credit goes to the person doing the work. Whoever you are, the work that you do is important to yourself. As Jamie and I talked about this, the title we came up is 3 steps to help guide you. Let me try that again, into creating fans for life. And really what we're seeing is that leaders, not only do they create fans, but they also help create other leaders. And that is really huge in what we do. Because one of the things that I've noticed, and I hope you have too, is that we need more leaders in our communities. And the first thing I want to talk about is authenticity. And I got to tell you guys that I wanted to start with this because this is something I had a really, really hard time with. And the first part of it was the fear of rejection, of misunderstanding, and of the failure to make a difference. And what happened to me is I was doing a Facebook Live one day on one of my favorite superheroes. I don't know if any of you guys know or gals know who Captain America is, but I was doing a Facebook Live on Captain America. And I was kind of feeling like, man, I don't feel like I'm reaching people. Well, that evening I got home and I was just going through messages, and there was a Facebook Messenger from a mom who has an autistic, and she just poured out. Like, they sat and watched that video a couple times. I couldn't even tell my wife. I just started crying. I handed my wife the phone. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, and I just had this amazing moment where I got to help somebody in their day who was having a bad day. And that was tough to show up because it was tough to show up because I was putting myself out there. And sometimes that can be difficult or challenging depending on the kind of person we are. But I learned to overcome those feelings by learning about myself and accepting myself as I am, whether I like a trait or don't like a trait, whether I like the way I smile or the way I talk to other people or whatever those things are. I had to first accept myself as I am. And being a guy who has carried weight for a very long time, that was something that I don't like about myself. But I didn't let that stop me. I didn't let that be the thing that held me back. Because, one of the things that I know Jamie knows is it's what's in our heads, in our hearts, that makes the biggest difference for other people. They accept us as we are, no matter how goofy looking I am or how handsome people may think I am. It's that individualness that we bring that makes the authenticity so powerful. You guys probably know somebody named Gary Vaynerchuk. He's really huge in the business space, and he's somebody that shows up all New Yorker all the time. And some people don't have a problem with that, and some people do. But he's himself, from what I've seen of him, all the time. And in some ways, he's a great example of that authenticity. Jamie, she's another person that's really great at that authenticity, about being herself and being in the moment with you. One of the things that else I had to do is I had to learn to connect with other people. And then I had to understand how that made a difference, not for me, for them. The power of my positive influence on them. And, that's different for each person. And some people, they may not even connect. And that's okay. Because that means that my voice, that your voice isn't the right voice for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because each and every one of us, because of our upbringing, because of our personalities, because of books we read and music we listen to, we connect with other people in different ways. And there's an audience for you out there that's waiting to hear your voice. I don't know who they are, but as you go on your journey, you're going to find them. And they're going to gravitate to you because of who you are, because of your own journey. We use a lot of times that that's a mountain that we climb, is connecting with people. Our own journey to personal development, personal growth, to that authenticity is all about that mountain. And your mountain is going to be different than mine. And Jamie's mountain is different than mine and yours. And your mountain is going to be different than your spouses or your boyfriends or your girlfriends or your nieces or nephews. And that is absolutely the way it's supposed to be, because we're individuals. We are ourselves. However you think of yourself, that's who you are. And that accepting yourself is a huge step. I have a friend who, I don't believe he accepts all of who he is. And because of that, he has some struggles that continue today in his life, even after 30, 40 years. But knowing who you are is so powerful for you and for your audience. The next thing I want to hit on is Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because in his book, he teaches a concept called circle of concern versus circle of influence. I probably should have had I should have done a diagram or something for that, because that's helpful. So your circle of concern is going to be the things that you can impact or that you can change directly. And for almost every single person, it starts in one place, right between your ears, right there. Because as we develop that, our thinking, our spiritual side, our physical side, our mental side, and it doesn't have to be spiritual as in Christian. It can be spiritual in whatever beliefs you have, because I think that most people do have a spiritual belief. And as we work on who we are, those things develop and evolve over time. So the story goes that a man wanted to grow up and change the world. But by the time he was in his middle ages, he realized he had no impact on the world. And so he shifted to try to have an impact on his country. And after a few years, he had no success there. And then he shifted to have an impact on his community. And he had no impact there. And then he shifted to have an impact on his family. And that also came apart. Another man or woman, they decided they wanted to change the world. And they started with themselves. And as they worked on themselves, they saw that circle of who they could, of their concern, expand. And they could influence their spouse. They could influence their children. They could influence their neighbor. And what happened is then that circle of influence, which is your second and third connections to people, expanded. Because as a person of character, as an authentic person with integrity and character, we have a bigger reach because of our good examples. And it's kind of the concept of throwing a pebble in a stream or in a pond. You just don't know where those ripples are going to go. You just don't know the extent of the reach that you're going to have. We can look at people like Booker T. Washington and Harriet Tubman and Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi. We can look at Jamie and Cheryl and the work that they do in their networking group. We can look at Stephen Covey, who is an internationally renowned author. He's passed away now, but now his son is doing work. We can look at people like Frank Betcher and Dale Carnegie. We can look at Francis Littauer and Dr. David Schwartz, all people whose books, their seminal works, live on to this day because of the examples that they set, the impact that they had by working on themselves and allowing their influence to go ahead and reach other people by being a person of character and integrity. So the question becomes for you, where will your authenticity take you? How far will your character and integrity reach? We don't know, do we? We don't know. I don't know. But here's one of the keys for that. Don't worry about the reach. Because you and I cannot affect that reach. We have no control over what happens out there in that circle of influence unless we stay in our circle of concern and take care of those things, our family, ourselves, those close associations that we have. So the second part I want to talk about.
That's a great question, Will. I just want to comment here. The authenticity, that not worrying about what other people think is what it comes down to, right? That's John Rohn said, success leaves clues. Yeah. I believe it was also John Rohn who said something along the lines of, the more people you help, the more people who will help you. It's just an exchange of energy, and that also authenticity is a huge piece of how people show up in that. And I love that question. It's a great question.
Jamie, I love that you brought that up because one of my favorite words of all time is the word karma. And I know it's not an English word, but I believe it's the best definition of our circle of influence. Because by being our authentic selves, we send out good energy or we send out bad energy, as you said. Blessings or cursings, however you want to look at it. And that comes back to us. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in other people's lives. And we control that by starting again right here, right between our ears. And the way that we do that is actually my next slide. Thank you, Jamie, because that was fantastic. Read, listen, and attend events. And I break it out like this for a couple different reasons. All three activities bring value. First of all, reading. These are some of my three favorite quotes about reading. The first is, reading is how we install new software. And to me, what I interpret that, or what that means is, when you read something, that gets into your mind and you think about it. it's there. It lives inside of you. And it's not everything. If we were to pick up one of my books here and flip through it, you're going to see parts that are underlined. If you read on a Kindle, you're going to see where a certain threshold of people have underlined a statement or a phrase, and that shows up in dotted lines. And you know what? I read that sometimes. I'm like, oh man, I got to highlight that too because that's great. Or others, I'm like, well, I can see that point, but that doesn't really speak to me. The second one is it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And what I love about this is that we have to, I have to, because that's the way I'm wired. In order to learn and grow from what we read, we need to think about it. And it could be something that is like you disagree with. However, thinking about it allows you to process your feelings about it, why you agree or disagree with that comment. One of my mentors says, when you're reading a book, argue back with the writer in the margins or have a notebook and write in there. I'm a margin writer. I'm an underliner in my books. I'm a scratcher out of a word because I disagree with the author on that. And the third one is actually more of a story. And I haven't been able to figure out exactly where this comes from. But it's no one ever steps in the same river twice. And it works in a couple of different ways. First of all, when you step in that river, the water's moving. And so that same water is not there. It's now downstream from you. And as you continue to walk across it, all that water keeps going. It just moves along. And the temperature is going to be different. As the seasons change, it's going to be different. Here's the great thing, though, about books. A book is like a river. Every time you get into it, you're a different person. And that book is going to be different. And different things are going to stand out to you. Well, so I just finished reading this book. I think it's the 4th or 5th time. It's How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success. And people are like, oh, that's a sales book. No, that's the title. This is actually a relationship book. And this book teaches people how to communicate and build relationships. And because you build relationships, because you listen to other people, then you can better see how you can serve them. Or sometimes you're the wrong person and you can make a recommendation to someone else or encourage them to pick up a different book maybe. And so that's a concept that when I first read it, I'll be honest with you guys, I was like, huh, wait a minute. Like, wait, the river's there and I'm walking, like, wait a minute. And it took me a couple minutes to like figure it out that the water's moving, seasons, like those different parts. And then I realized it also applied to books. Okay. I just want you guys to know that it blew me away because I didn't ever think about that. So, all right. Listen.
And let's be honest, it applies to everything in life. Your view of something that happened to you when you were 7 years old is so different when you're 37 years old or 57 years old or whatever old you are. It's different if you look at it from the outside looking in, or even if you embody the idea of being that little 7-year-old person. Most of us experience some sort of trauma between the ages of 5 and 12, right? Just because we're still learning to navigate all those feelings and things, all those things. So we can think back to when something really affected us. But that is a huge piece of it. That's a huge piece, is just knowing that little person viewed things in a very different way than we can view it now as a grown-up.
And the great thing about that, Jamie, is that as we think about those things and we process that, it helps us to heal from those things. And I got to tell you, for me, I didn't understand that until I had somebody close to me that was dealing with trauma. And I was trying to understand like what was going on. And you're going to be surprised at this one. I did some reading about it because she couldn't articulate what was going on, or the process that she needed to go through. And so I learned some few things. So listening is mostly about um this listening is mostly about you listening to things. Okay. Listening is the act of using our minds and ears when our hands are busy. How many people have more than a 30-minute drive to work? What are you listening to? Are you listening to the radio and somebody comes on and starts yelling at you every 15 minutes about something that you don't really need or want or care about? I have found for myself that using time doing dishes, laundry, driving, those are all great times for me to listen. And I plug into audiobooks. I plug into let me go back to my list, because audiobooks, physical books, books on specific things that I'm working on, books on my industry, on people skills, on leadership, sacred text. This is stuff that I and my mentors, and apparently Jamie too, from the nodding of her head, encourage people to get into, because there is a whole host of books that people shy away from. And I think it's because they're afraid of the journey. Because I was at one point, I was afraid of that journey. So podcasts, audiobooks, lectures, training, events like this. And there's so much more out there. There's networking groups that you can participate in, and it's being there, it's listening. And I want you guys to understand that tying into that content, that listening to it while you're doing something with your hands, makes a big difference. So
this is going to blow you away, Will, I think.
Go ahead.
Listening or audible, visual, and kinesthetic learning makes up for 85% of all learning. So if we're doing something physically with our hands, washing dishes, folding clothes, it's all those things that you mentioned, and we're listening with our ears, and of course we're seeing, because we're typically doing all those things while we're watching, we learn and retain information 85 to 95% better than if we're just sitting doing nothing while we're listening.
I had not heard that, Jamie. That's amazing.
So cool, huh?
Excuse me. It really is, because it just maximizes your brain power by plugging into that content. So a couple of different things that I study: leadership, parenting, marriage, things specific to coaching, things specific to training and teaching, because that's a lot of what I do. I do audiobooks. I attend lectures. I listen to podcasts. I attend, networking events. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So events, okay? Trade shows, seminars, meetups, networking groups, training, mentoring sessions. Even this short session with Jamie and I, there's bound to be something that you get out of what we're sharing. Even if it's one thing, that's one step farther, farther away from the person you don't want to be, and one step closer to the person you want to be. Man, I'm just, this is on my desk. So I just finished this book recently, The Slight Edge. And one of the things that Jeff Olson talks about in his book is that forward progression, it's okay if it's only 1% a day, because that's 365% a year. And that growth, that personal development, is meant to be a climb up a mountain. It's not meant to be a sprint. You're not going to be the Usain Bolt of learning. There's, as far as I know, no one, even people that have photographic memories still have to process the information. They can retain it and recall it, but yeah. So show up to these events, participate in them. And the last one is number 3 of this is to show up. So it's what is it now? It's authenticity, read, listen, and events, and then show up and start keeping your appointments. Be your authentic self. However you are, the person I am today is not the person I was in 2020 when I rolled my truck into a ditch. But that was intentional on my part. And I don't tell you that. See, oh, okay, you handled that pretty good. Yeah, but 3 years before that, I wouldn't have handled that at all. It would have ruined my whole weekend. But the guy that showed up in 2020 laughed with his kids for the next 3 weeks while his truck sat in the ditch for a week, sat at the tow lot for a week, and then was at the repair shop for a week. 3 weeks without my ride. But because of that growth, and please, I'm trying to use this as an example to help you guys understand that growth happens over time. And I hope you don't take it as I'm trying to spotlight myself, because I wouldn't even use it if I thought that it was going to be mostly taken that way. So be your authentic self, and then learn to fill in your gaps in the places where you're lacking. Man, sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's really hard. And sometimes we don't have the means to hire an assistant to take care of that for us, or to hire somebody to come in and maybe cook meals for us, or like whatever the thing is that you struggle with. Maybe right now we don't have the means for that. And we've got to kind of figure that out until we can bring in help. And then give back to your community. Whatever communities you're in, give back. Show up and participate. Be an inspiration by being consistently involved. You don't have to be the leader, the one in charge of everything. You just need to be there. And I can't tell you how big a difference that makes. Well, and people know they can rely on you in your job, as a coach or a mentor, as a spouse, as a boyfriend or girlfriend, as a son. I have a brother, and he's done some ecclesiastical. Boy, I'm having some trouble with words today. He's done some work as a secretary for his church in the past. He was the executive secretary for the leadership, and they would give him something to do, and he would do it. And they'd forget about it because they knew when they gave him a task, it was done. They did it. Done. And that's an amazing example for me. That one of the last points is care more what you can do to serve than what you're going to receive back. And that is something that I still struggle with today, which is why it's on this list, is because I sometimes forget how I'm showing up. I'm authentic, but sometimes I'm like, man, what can I get out of this for me? No. What can I give to my community? You really need to check out Jamie and Shell's networking group, because they give so much and you can get so much value from it. I kid you not. I've told Jamie this before. I've told Cheryl this before. I am who I am today in part because of being there and learning from those two ladies and the rest of the group. So the last point is, as Jamie shares, be a light and bring joy.
Oh, yay. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. You did a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yay. Wonderful. When it comes to, I have a couple of questions for you. So when it comes to networking, well, first of all, you're in business. Yes, you're in business. What is it that your business is?
So I am a transition coach.
Okay.
And I mostly work with men between the ages of 20 and as long as they're still working. And I help them transition. Maybe they feel stuck in their career and they're looking for a promotion, and they've been told, yeah, right now you're not in a position for that. I help with that through the coaching process. People that maybe they want to change careers, but they need to grow some, and I work with people that do that. I also have another, it's a self-study program, and I meet with people once a month, and same stuff, but it's at a slower pace, because sometimes people aren't ready for working on themselves a lot. And so it just depends on where somebody's at. But mostly guys between that are in the working age, I love doing it because I had somebody who pulled me aside at my job once upon a time and said, let me help you fix the situation because he's not going to change. So you're going to need to make some changes. And at the time I was having nightmares. I was going to lose my job. It was that bad. Like it was that stressful. And because of this gentleman and some coaching that he did, and he just 2 little things. He's like, change this, and I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. And over the next course of the year, that mentoring spawned me to get back to reading, to get back to the books, to get back to events and the podcasts and the listening. And so that's part of what I teach people, and how to look for some of that content that is going to be necessary for you. That's going to be different from what I need.
Love it. Love it. And thank you. Thank you for doing that. What are you looking at?
Oh, I have another screen up here. So
Oh, okay.
I have a dual monitor.
I was thinking someone was standing over your desk going, are you almost done?
Nope. Nope. There's a window about 2 feet from me right here. And my wife's business is here on this side. And so I have a little corner carved out where she lets me sit here and help her with the things that she does and do my own thing. So I have another monitor that's up here now. It's just closing my PowerPoint.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense, actually. Thank you for sharing. I was just being nosy.
No.
All right. So
showing up, being authentic.
Yes, exactly. Just a quick two more questions that I want to ask you. One is, what is it that I hear your story about what brought you into coaching and helping other people gain traction in their lives and or climb ladders, essentially is kind of how I view what you do is helping people get to where they want to be in their job and or industry. What is it that, aside from reading, and by the way, you have a podcast. What's your podcast called?
My podcast is Iron Will's Book Review.
Iron Will's Book Review.
Published.
You can find it and
you can find it almost everywhere podcasts are published. I just published episode 93 today.
So excited.
And it's it's fantastic. And just to let you guys know that it was Cheryl and Jamie and my buddy Mike out of Philly. Not Philly, Pittsburgh. He'd be mad at me. Out of Pittsburgh, who is he's a ghostwriter. Because of those 3 people, I now have a podcast of the thing I was already doing to help people reach more people. So yeah.
So exciting. That's fantastic. But what I was going to ask you was, how is it that you go from kind of being mentored to mentoring, and what is it that brings you into that space where you kind of take that leap of faith in yourself to share the knowledge, share the wisdom?
So for every person, that journey is going to be different. Some people are going to take a more traditional route and go through courses and go through that certification process. And some of us, we don't go that route because we think different things happen for us and we learn a different way. One of the things that really got me going towards that is that first, it was that experience with this guy at work. But secondly, as I was doing the reading, the listening, the events, I grew. And I realized that my ability to positively influence people to make better choices in their life started to happen. Like things would come up and somebody would come back and say, hey, I want to thank you because the new job I have got me a 30% increase in my income. Somebody comes back and said, hey, I really like you to lead this effort because you could positively motivate people and keep things on track. And I just had experiences and so I just started talking to people. And then, I sat down, I had to figure out like, okay, like, well, I want to make this transition. I'm starting to have an impact on people by helping them. And then I realized, man, there's people that do this. I think I can do this. And then so talking with another mentor and working with that person and going through that process and developing my own style, the way that I approach people and talk to people, the way that I listen to people to hear what they need. Because I believe I can work with anybody, but not everyone's going to connect with me. And that's fine because I am not a superhero. I only have so much time, but I want to help those people that were in the spot that I was at, feeling frustrated and stuck, stressed out maybe, and really worried about their future. And because of that own process for myself, I'm not worried about the future. Now, yes, there are things I do worry about, but like the path I'm on, I know the way I'm going. I work with a mentor for those to work on things specifically for me that I need to continue to work on. And it's, whether you call it a coach or mentor, to me, it's interchangeable. He's actually showing me the things that he did. He and his wife, they're a couple. And they're helping me like make those changes in my own life. Learn like, okay, you need to study this. You need to come to this. And so just that process has been so powerful that I have lived my own story, but more importantly, I love other people's successes because you do the work, not me. I get to stand and be your cheerleader. Go, go, go. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. I think most coaches are some essence of cheerleader.
And I wasn't that person originally.
Right.
It's not that I didn't care. It's just that I was in here and so
that's what it comes down to, is that we get out of our own way and all of a sudden this whole world like opens up to us of like, oh my gosh, all these people are here. Look at all these amazing people. They don't even see how amazing they are. Let's help them see.
And that's one of the things that was amazing to me and startling, is that you talk to somebody, you're like, wait, they don't realize they've had this impact and this impact on the people in their lives. And then like, how do you talk to them about that? And how do you, and some people, you got to be slow with them to get them to see it, because if you go too fast, it's going to like mess them up, and they're going to be like, wait, no, because they don't see themselves that way. They don't see themselves as inspiration. And a lot of people, I have a buddy, his name is Dean. And when Dean started in this process for himself, he would read at night, but he would stand up and he would walk in his living room to read, because he'd get so tired some nights that if he fell asleep while he was reading, he'd fall down and he'd get back up and, finish the reading he wanted to do. What? Are you kidding me? He's that committed? Wow, man, I need to step up my game. So, you get to hear stories like that from people, and you get to know their heart and their character, and you get to see the kind of people that are here. And I gotta tell you, before I got into the space, I saw people that were like me, that were like this, and they didn't see, and things were terrible. And now, like Jamie said, there's so many people everywhere that are so amazing, that have great stories. Some of them are tragic, some of them are funny, some of them are just, you're like, wait, you survived that? Like, holy cow. I've got another friend. Her name's Sandy. Her son was on a motorcycle. He was run over by a Jeep, and then I think a bus. And let me tell you what, the doctor's like, dude, you're never walking. Like, you're like, and Sandy and Taylor were like, that's not my story. And Taylor can now take 20 steps unaided. I'm like, it's been 4 years, but so what? He's done it. He's walking. He's got ways to go. But are you kidding me? Like, that's an amazing story.
Right. Wow. So cool. So cool. Yes, exactly. And that's just it, is, when we take those little blinders off, Boy, does the world open up. I mean, I know
Oh
it
my
sounds
gosh.
really easy to do, but it is not. Will and I both have been through more than enough of our own challenges and dramas and traumas to know that it takes a lot. And so to help people get there themselves, I agree. It's just so fulfilling. The
And it's
last
worth it.
question.
It's worth it
It
to
is worth it.
you.
It is absolutely worth it.
Yes.
Totally agree. Completely agree. The last question or official business question that I have for you is, when it comes to networking, because we are believers in networking, I am as well. So I kind of know this is totally a leading question as far as I'm concerned. But when I know, right? Totally. So silly. I'm saying totally a lot. The
You live in
network,
California.
I know. It's all radical out here in California, dude. Totally. We say that word a lot, both of them. Anyway, reset. When it comes to networking, why is it that you network? And I think I know where you're going to go with, but tell us a little bit about networking and why you do it.
I started with the wrong reasons. I'll be honest. Okay. I started because I wanted to build clientele, and then it shifted. And I show up to networking for two reasons. One, to learn from other people, because as Jamie and I have talked, other people have amazing experiences that we can learn from. And two, to bring value to the group. I'll be honest, I may sit through a whole hour with a networking group and I might say one thing because I feel like that part I can add value. And I'll be quiet because I'm learning. I'm taking notes because other people have amazing stories. And I have learned through that process, I've learned that if I can listen to their story and I can learn about the things that they've overcome, it makes me stronger. It'll make you stronger too. Jamie knows that. She's shared some things that have strengthened me, and I know we've been in a networking group where other people shared stuff, and I could see the transformation happen in Jamie just like that. Because she heard it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And you can see it. Sometimes you can see it in people's eyes if you're watching the screen real good.
The little gears
Yeah,
turning.
yeah,
Also
it's
just
so
taking it in.
amazing.
Yeah. Excuse me, sorry. For me, the networking piece of the puzzle is really deeply about building those relationships. Because when it comes to networking, and by the way, just in case you are on this and or viewing it and you don't know what networking is, it's business people coming together to share their businesses on some level in some way. Not all networking events or situations are the same. There are some that are very geared toward sharing contacts and making sure that you do referrals and all that kind of stuff. And there are others that are far more passive, far more interested in, I think Cheryl's and mine falls more in the passive, in the sense that we are there to learn from each other. So I love that you said that. It absolutely,
Yeah.
pat on the back to Cheryl, because it's actually Cheryl's deal. She put this thing together and she asked me to run the United States version of it. She runs the Canada version of it. And we have people from all over the US and Canada meeting together as business owners, sharing our stories, sharing our excitement, sharing our energy, sharing our wisdom with each other. And we get to learn things that work, things that we wouldn't, I think for me, the biggest thing is so many of the tools that I use now, I would have had no freaking clue about them if it wasn't for networking. Because when I work for myself, I'm 10 feet away from my office space. So that's great in some respects, and it's horrible in other respects. So to get out there and socialize and get to know people and learn from them is so incredibly valuable. And this forum that we have, this internet thing that we all resisted back in the 80s. We were like, whatever. I don't even know what this World Wide Web thing is, right? How amazing has it been to engage with people all across the entire world? It unifies us in a way that we never could have been unified before.
Yeah, and it really helps you learn how connected we are. We're way more connected. And I don't mean internet connected. I mean heart to heart, mind to mind connected. And it's it is amazing. It's amazing.
Awesome.
I don't have a better word. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's completely amazing. So thank you very, 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 very much, Wil, for taking time out of your busy schedule to teach us a little bit about what you know about embracing your leadership role, the 3 steps to create a fans for life. And that's just it, is when you develop that relationship, when you put somebody else's, the saying goes that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should be listening twice as much as we speak. It seems very logical, but when you get into nerves and nervous energy and, how people navigate all of that information within themselves, oftentimes we're speaking a lot more than we're listening. So just recognize that within yourself. Give yourself, one of the words that keeps coming up for me is giving yourself a little bit of grace when you make a mistake, or when you find yourself blah, 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 in mixed company. Maybe it's time to take a step back, take a deep breath, maybe close your mouth, maybe listen a little bit more, and then say, it's okay that you did that. They obviously in some energetic way needed to learn something about you so that you could. Yeah, plus, learning to speak our minds, learning to speak our truth. That's a lot of what I see going on in the world right now, is some of the anger and frustration is just from being kept suppressed for so many centuries. So
yeah,
just allowing yourself to have some grace, be authentic, show up the best way you possibly can, and try recognizing when you're maybe needing to bite your tongue a little bit more and listen a little bit more, so that you can be the gracious, wonderful human being that we all know and love. And I don't mean you specifically, Wil. I mean you specifically, Jamie, sometimes. And then just as general advice, it's okay to listen more than you talk.
You'll learn a lot more.
I know, right? Oh, it's so true. It's so true. But those differences that we know, like, and learn about each other can be the strength that binds us together just as much as the similarity. How flippin' boring would this world? I told this to a group of kids that I taught in 3rd grade, when they were like, oh, you're that religion? I didn't know that about you. Like, I'm this religion and I don't know. Like, they were almost in a fight over it on the playground or in my classroom. I was teaching art, and I said, wait, do you mind if I make a little comment here? Like, okay, sure, yeah. Yes, Miss Jamie. So thank goodness they were open to listening, because I said, just think for a second, what if every single person you came across had the exact same color hair? And I gave them a second to think about that. What if every single person on the planet had the exact same eye color? What if every single person on the whole planet had exactly the same skin color? What if everybody wore the exact same thing? I said, do you think that would be a really exciting place to be? No, Miss Jamie, that would be so boring. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Bravo, out of the mouths of babes. It would be so boring.
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. You just made me think of the movie The Matrix. And in that film, they talk about how the computer kept giving people a perfect world, and it kept failing, it kept collapsing. And it found that it had to have the differences and the different, events that happen in our lives happen in that system. And I love what it said. It's that we thrive on the challenges.
Absolutely. And when we
And the
can shift our
differences.
mindset
Yeah.
to that place, we
Yeah, how
become better human beings. We become deeper, more empathetic, more vulnerable in the best way possible. Not that we're, vomiting our drama onto everybody, but in the way that we're opening our heart to being the highest, best self and showing up in the best, beautiful way we can. What were you going to say?
Absolutely. I just agree with you. That when we show up, when we bring what we have of value and share it and accept what other people are sharing, we learn a ton. We learn so much. I have a mentor. He says all the time, I learn more listening than I do speaking.
All the time. The speaking platform, as far as I'm concerned, is just a method to meet more people, to learn more lessons, which I love. Yeah. I love that about it.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Mwah. Love
Thank you,
and
Jamie.
Kisses to you and your beautiful family. And I look forward to teaching with you again someday soon, Mr. Wil.
Yeah, awesome. I think this is fantastic.
Thank you for being here.
Platform.
If anybody wants to reach out to you, where do they reach out to you?
So the best place is turningleafs.com. That's LEAFS.com.
So turning TURNING Leafs LEAFS.com. Yep. And if you want to see me, I'm at jamieallenbishop.com, JamieAllenBishop, no spaces.com. And same with Turning Leafs, no spaces.com. And thank you for being here. And we look forward to seeing and hearing from you again soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Jamie. Have a great night.